You didn't predict it. I didn't predict it. But could there be a more glorious scenario than the one in which we live right now, Dan? And that is the Chicago Bears just had an 11-6 season, and the Green Bay Packers were 9-7-1. The Bears take the North. The Bears host the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field on Saturday night at 7. It never gets old saying what I just said. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm the best.
This is so much fun, and it's overdue, as Chicago knows, and it's just the amount of theater that is packed in to the lead up to Saturday night, the third installment in the trilogy, Bears-Packers, third time in 35 days, I think it is. And you've got an opportunity here to write a new chapter in Bears history, one way or the other. And the fun part of that is just knowing that you earned this opportunity, right? And then approaching it with that in mind, of understanding that, like, look, we gave ourselves a home playoff game against our rivals to do something special with. I don't know what gets more fun than that.
You know, it's funny. We already did this in some ways. I understand the playoffs are a different animal, but we already did a full week of lead up to a Saturday night at Soldier Field against the Green Bay Packers, and it lived up to every inch of the billing, the hype. I remember walking to Soldier Field that day, living in the South Loop, making my way with the parades of people and the hype. And I know what a different sound is and a different vibe is amongst. I've been to enough games as a fan and as a reporter and all that good stuff to know the feeling. And it tenses up a little bit when it's the Green Bay Packers, and I'm sure it does for the Packers as well. But we've had that, and that was the Caleb Williams 46-yard touchdown pass to DJ Moore in overtime, a 22-16 win for the greatest Christmas party of the Chicago season on December 20th. But it's just amazing when we think about these things and how we got here and the fact that this is happening again for the Chicago Bears.
You just gave me goosebumps because it's the electricity of the atmosphere that we were treated to in Week 16, that we will be treated to in the wild card round this weekend. That's unmatchable. It really is. And it's going to be 7 years since the Bears last hosted a playoff game, obviously the infamous double doink game against the Eagles. But even that day leading up to kickoff of that game, you felt it. You felt the anticipation. You felt the city's juice and passion for what they were about to witness. It's amazing. Like, I think personally, for myself, I think of all of the meaningless December football that I've covered over my 13 seasons on the beat, and then this past month where every single game you were going had stakes and it had significance and it had the buzz surrounding it that this city needs and, quite frankly, this city deserves. And that buzz is going to be heightened by about 6 or 7 notches when we drive in to the parking lots at Soldier Field on Saturday.
I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. And, yeah, it's just getting started. The last time these two teams played in the playoffs against one another, it did not go very well for the Chicago Bears. The NFC title game, which was January 23rd, 2011, a 21-14 win for the Packers over the Bears. And I just jotted down 3 names from that game. Actually, would you like to give me 3 names that you would use to describe the Bears-Packers game from January 23rd of 2011?
I'm going to start with B.J. Raji.
I've got that down. Okay.
That's one.
We're doing a little cross-checking here.
Okay.
Cross-checking segment here on Take the North.
The obvious answer is Caleb Haney.
That 2 for 2, buddy. One more.
One more. That one. And then I guess I have to say Rodgers, because it really was the arrival of Aaron Rodgers in a lot of ways.
I'm going to throw a curveball here. Maybe I'm getting too cute here, but Todd Collins.
Oh, no, that's not cute. That was the one that I didn't think you were going to say. I literally just had this conversation today in the media room with our good friend Dion Miller and saying, like, do you remember that Todd Collins played a little bit in that game? And then the Bears were like, no, we're not doing this. Caleb, get ready. The other Caleb Haney, get ready. Get in there.
Todd Collins, yeah. And we all had hope for him. Like, we had hope for so many, because he was the Carolina quarterback for like 4 or 5 years or something like that. Todd Collins before like, I have no idea. But yeah, those are definitely the 3 names. I was actually at that game as a fan, sitting in the south end zone. It was 17 degrees and my feet were freezing. That was the first time that I tried to do the cardboard box thing that they don't allow at Soldier Field anymore. Apparently a safety concern, but it saved the day for me.
Thank God. And look at what doors it's unlocked for me because you had the cardboard box all those years ago. You're here.
Yes.
You're able to steer me through these podcasts, even when we go live here for 2 hours. It's great. I mean, it is great. The buzz around town is palpable. I do think that the Bears are successfully kind of getting past whatever that was Sunday. You were there in the locker room with me and feeling the tension that was there. I think maybe they're starting to get that behind them a little bit, which they have to on a short week. And then we'll see what they have in store in a 3-hour test, as we talked about on Monday, a final exam for the Bears to prove that this season is fully legitimate.
Yeah, let's get into some of it, folks. Again, that is Dan Wiederer. I am Mark Grote. This is a very special edition, a live edition of the Take the North podcast, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten from our regular viewers and regular listeners wherever you take in the podcast. So thank you so much. It is a blessing to be able to, in some way, lead Bears fans through this journey, the good and the bad. And we know, look, the Bears get a lot of attention when they're bad, but the attention has blown up in a good way when the Bears are good. And I think that we as a podcast are feeling we are feeling Bears fans, man. And not every comment is pleasant. I'm talking about like critiques about the Bears. Some people critique the podcast, but it is a different vibe right now in Bears fan land and those that take in the Take the North podcast.
Well, you literally talk for years about what might this be like if they get good. And then they get good and you're like, oh, okay, this was everything we imagined and more, just in terms of the volume of conversation topics that are out there, the compelling nature of this season in so many ways. Again, all of the heart-stopping moments that this team had to win itself a division title, the emergence of a new star in Ben Johnson as the coach, the development of Caleb Williams, all of the surprise standouts that the Bears have had, and the guys that have come in and filled in for other people and then become players of the week in a lot of cases. It's been a crazy season filled with a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack, and we're going to keep going for as long as they keep playing.
We will, and as a matter of fact, we'll go a little bit more in depth on the show later on exactly how we got here. We're going to do that at 7:25. Keep in mind this name, Bobenmoyer. If you are a regular listener to the podcast, you understand the keyword.
Bobenmoyer.
Look it up. A lot, maybe on the text line, maybe a quick text contest for Take the North, 312-644-6767. Why would we be mentioning the name Bobenmoyer? But we will do that in-depth Bobenmoyer at 7:25. Cole Kmet is going to join the show. He's going to join us here in about 10 minutes, actually. That's coming right up. Cole Kmet at 6:25. We're going to get into a bit on the defense at 6:45. But right now, Dan, take us to Haugh. I was doing the Rahimi Harris and Grote show today while Bears were going through a walkthrough, while there were several players and coaches speaking out at Haugh today. Take us inside the hall. What was the vibe? What was going down, man?
Incredibly full program there for us in the media. We got to hear from Ben Johnson, from Caleb Williams, from Cole Kmet, from Kevin Byard, from Montez Sweat. That's a pretty star-studded lineup there in that room, and they were one after another after another after another. And so when that hour was done, you're like, man, we just got a lot of information to digest and sort of sort through. I think for anyone who's trying to get themselves in a mood for this week, go ahead and pull up Kevin Byard's press conference today and listen to every word that he said. Listen, this guy is a 10th-year veteran. He's one of their team captains. He's a Pro Bowl performer. He's been to the playoffs 5 times before. So his voice carries weight. His experience carries perspective. And so what you heard from Kevin Byard was unbridled enthusiasm for what this opportunity is. And if he's able to convey that message to us sitting in the press conference room, I can only imagine the kind of spirit he can sort of inject and instill in a defense and a team when he starts to tell them about what this week is and what it means. And I just thought Kevin was really, really forward in being understanding of what this is. All bets are off in the playoffs. He went to the playoffs 4 times with the Titans. One year they went 9-7 and wound up playing in the conference championship game. Another year they were the number 1 seed in the AFC and they lost their playoff opener. And there's stories like that all over for the guys who have the playoff experience, Grote, where you feel the urgency, you understand tomorrow's not promised, and then you try to get every single guy on your team to play every single snap with that kind of purpose.
It's all hands on deck, doing what you got to do to win this game. Even if it takes you out of your comfort zone. I'm not saying doing something ridiculously different than you've done all year, but if you're feeling a little bit of pain, again, I read part of this tweet from Chris Emma, and I know it was at large out at Haugh today, and Ben Johnson. But here's the full quote from Ben Johnson that got me going. We're mentally prepared to play for 5 more weeks. That's our intent. How do you do that? You go out and win the first one. We're going to go all out for this game, and we'll worry about the future when the time comes. That's from Ben Johnson today, and I think that I could hear those words coming out of Byard's mouth too, along that same line. He's been in the league a decade plus, man. He understands it, he knows it, and there has to be a certain way that the Bears comport themselves right now.
I will say this: there was a different demeanor between Kevin Byard and Ben Johnson today inside that room. Kevin Byard was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and expressing to everyone that he feels rejuvenated, that everything feels more energized for him. Ben looked like a guy who's exhausting every single potential option to try to win this football game on Saturday. For a guy who's burning the candle at both ends and trying to find the 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 advantages that the Bears can find to beat the Green Bay Packers for the second time this season. We know he enjoys beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
He's got a chance.
He's got an opportunity to do so on Saturday night. And so that was there. And then obviously, you hear from the starting quarterback, and I think Caleb has a manner about him that's noteworthy just in terms of his own self-belief that he was made for these kinds of moments. Okay, now you have your opportunity to go prove it. You've got a huge moment on Saturday at Soldier Field in front of your home crowd with a chance to become a hero. Go seize the day, right? And I think Caleb's got himself in the headspace to try to do that, understanding that ideally you don't want to wait till the last 8 minutes of a football game to start to get that done.
Exactly. You got to feel that urgency from the beginning, and maybe he will. Maybe he will, because if that's the moment, if the playoffs are the moment, if he's moved, maybe he is like that from the beginning. But you're right. I mean, that has been a persistent issue. It reared its ugly head again this past week in the loss to the Detroit Lions. Nice third quarter stuff, but the magic wasn't there in the end. And like I said on the podcast, Dan, on the Take the North podcast, it was a lesson learned, and they learned that they cannot get away with that stuff for sure. Let's talk about some of the news of the day out at Haugh today. And the Bears, Dan, opened up the proverbial 21-day windows to return for a couple of players, Kyler Gordon and Braxton Jones. Your immediate reaction to both of those, Dan?
Well, look, you got the sense that they were pushing in this direction with Gordon, who they obviously could use, particularly with C.J. Gardner-Johnson still in the concussion protocol after Sunday. I don't know what it's going to look like. I know that when Kyler Gordon went down the most recent time, the thought process was, we're not going to see Kyler again. He's been just too in and out. There's been a season that's been totally disrupted, once by a hamstring, then by a calf and a groin. I think this latest one was the groin again. You're going to try to see what you can squeeze out of anybody that can help you, as you said, on Saturday. Braxton Jones was a little bit of a surprise in that news release that the Bears put out this afternoon. He's been on injured reserve since October. It was an injury to his knee that occurred in practice. And if you can find a way to supply your offensive line with some more quality, experienced depth going into the playoffs, then you find a way to do it. And again, opening that window, there's no risk attached to that. It gives you 21 days to get those guys removed from IR and on the 53-man roster. You can do the math on that, where those 21 days take us.
Yeah.
And so, see what you can do, and we'll see where that takes the Bears.
What a weird year for Braxton Jones. I want to make sure I got this right off the top of my head here. Braxton Jones won the left tackle job, but it was like the most reluctant left tackle winning ever, right?
Yeah,
it was
roundabout way.
I remember. I think I was the one that asked Ben Johnson, he's like, we're gonna go with Braxton Jones. And everything that he was saying, you can infer that he better kick it up a notch. He gets replaced by Theo Benedette, not for injury, right? For play. They decided for performance. They decided to go with Theo Benedette. And then, as you said, the injury occurred when he was on the bench, when he was practicing.
Yeah.
Knee injury out there, and now he returns. all to say, Dan, like I've always thought about it, if the Bears could get the left tackle position right, which it looks like they are, it seems like they have been in the process of doing. Braxton Jones, like it's perfect, like you just said, like he's depth, and that's a pretty good depth piece to have. I don't know if you can hang on to that in the future, but it's like in a baseball rotation when you get that ace and everybody falls into the proper slot. This put Braxton Jones into the proper slot, and I would welcome that man back big time for depth, and who knows what else.
And you never know when you're going to need the depth. You just brought up that playoff game 15 years ago where Caleb Haney was suddenly taking snaps. You don't know what position you're going to need the depth at. You don't know what guy on your bench is going to be thrust into a very important role at a moment's notice. And so I think the Bears understand that. They're preparing for that. And it should be a really, really interesting way to get themselves ready for Saturday night wildcard round football at Soldier Field.
I'm being told that Todd Collins will be part of the Alumni Association on the field before the start of that game.
Okay.
You're like, is he serious? Wait a minute.
Is that true?
No, it's not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Todd Collins.
Yeah. It's third down. Todd Collins, Caleb Haney, and B.J. Raji will all be there on the sidelines. No. That's not happening. That's his jokes. The Kyler Gordon thing is really interesting, too. I mean, especially considering what the Packers have done, I guess really in the loss to the Packers, where the explosive plays, the Bo Melton play, the Christian Watson play, maybe some of that doesn't happen that day if you have a healthy Kyler Gordon on board. So it would be like, I can't, and we were talking about this today on the Score, it's hard to imagine that Kyler, if he does come back, that he would be 100%.
Oh, man. He's missed 14 games, I think, right? Like he's missed 14 games and then a whole bunch of practice in the summer. And so I don't know that you can rely on much there. You're certainly hopeful, but hope is most of what you have as you put together your plan for Saturday. I look, the Packers moved the ball really well in the game at Soldier Field too. They just didn't get it done in the red zone. And so the Bears obviously stepped up to that challenge, and they checked the box as being successful in the mission there of being sturdy inside the red zone. It's going to happen again on Saturday. In order for them to do so, you want to have your full arsenal of playmakers. And, as we've talked about for a few days now, this is January football, and January football is when playmakers step up and determine whether you are going to survive and advance or go home and pack up the black hefty trash bags in front of your locker the next day.
It's going to be a blast to see who those players are. Like just when those magical moments, hopefully those magical moments will occur. Like who's going to get a pick six, right? Is there going to be Caleb bomb down the field? Who's going to save the day?
Yeah, we don't know. And so we'll sit at the edge of our seats like we have for 4 months, and we'll wait and see what the script writers have come up with for us.
We are thrilled to have joining us here on The Score and the Take the North podcast. He's St. Viator's very own. He's Notre Dame's very own. He is the Bears' very own, and he is now on the Take the North podcast. He is Cole Kmet. Cole, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on. We do have to ask you a question right off the bat. Right before you came on, we'd like to give fitting intros for the guests that come on The Score and the Take the North podcast. And our producer, Adam Stadzinski, asked both of us, hey, what kind of music does he like? What do you want to play? And I said, I have no idea, but I'm going to guess. And I said, I'm going to go country, but the progressive, recent, modern version of country music. Am I right? And if I'm wrong, what is your music?
I mean, I'll listen to country. I kind of listen to whatever. I'm not a huge, if you start playing certain specific artists, I'm no fan of, all due respect, but I'm not a huge Weekend fan. So that'll be put on skip, but, love listening to Mumford & Sons, Zach Bryan, the Lumineers. That's my type of vibe.
Okay.
I did not have Weekend Catching a Stray from Cole Kmet on my bingo card for tonight.
But I'm with them. Like they're catchy songs. Like you can understand why people like Weekend, but it doesn't hit me the right way. Yeah.
Well, yeah. See, Steve Carlson in the tight end room plays the music every day, and he knows I don't prefer the Weekend, and every once in a while he'll try and sneak a Weekend song in there. Yeah. And I can usually just tell by his voice. So then I turn around, he sits right behind me, and I'll give him a stare, and he'll skip it and get on to the next thing.
Are the Counting Crows a good band, by the way? Dan and I were kicking this around the other day. Do you like the Counting Crows?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Cole's too young to care about the
Yeah,
County Crows.
yeah.
He's in a different demographic than us. Cole, obviously today we were up there at Haugh, and the vibes are shifting from whatever the aggravation was on Sunday after the loss to the Lions to the anticipation for this weekend. Bears-Packers, the third installment of the trilogy. Where are you at here, understanding what you guys have earned the opportunity to do and what this atmosphere is going to be like on Saturday night down here?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, we're really excited. I'm really excited. Kind of gives you the same type of feel you had going into that second Green Bay game. The kind of that build up and that lead up, and we're excited and we're getting ready to roll here. So yeah, we've turned the page from the game from 2 days ago, and we're ready to get going here. We just did an install of the base plan today, and excited to see where it goes through the course of the week.
Was it that December 20th win over the Packers? You're just talking about the last time you guys played on a Saturday night. Was that the one where you had talked about maybe being too hyped during the week and like you guys kind of were overdoing it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I kind of talked about today during my press conference a little bit about like what it's going to take to win this game, and Ben had alluded to it last time before we played these guys. And look, there's no question that we really want to win this game, and they really want to win this game. And sometimes that's, the want to win is good enough, and that works like in high school and maybe in some college games. But in the NFL, everyone wants to win and wants to win these games badly. And what it comes down to is those coach speak things, but the basic fundamentals and doing the details right, communicating effectively. Those are the things that are going to win out. And so we got to go out there at the end of the day and go execute this plan to the fullest. And I think if we do that, we'll like the result that we have.
Cole, one of the things that you've talked about all season, and I've really taken to the way you've admired the way this running game has come alive, both from the standpoint of the vision Ben had for it, his ability to articulate that to you guys, and then for the players to bring it to life. When you guys walk into the playoffs knowing you've got the best running game in the conference and that it's been proven all season, what is most notable to you about the way that whole thing has come to life?
Yeah, well, I think just really the communication aspect being the first part, and that really obviously starts with the quarterback and Caleb and Drew Dahlman, our center, and Drew kind of getting things ID'd correctly and getting us all on the same page, and then really all of us kind of playing as one organism, as one thing, and I think that was something that we kind of struggled with maybe the first few weeks of the season, and then really since the bye week, we really have taken off there in terms of the run game. I think we looked back at our tape from this past game and weren't happy with a few things that will get corrected this week. But, overall, when you look back on the season, there was a lot of great things we did in the run game. And, obviously Ben and the coaching staff does a great job of scheming it up, getting the angles that are favorable to us and the matchups that are favorable to us. But, in terms of the running backs, playing with the tight ends and the offensive line, it really seems like we've all been in sync in terms of our aiming points and our tracks, and we've been able to play fast and be explosive in that matter. So it's been a lot of fun to be part of. It's been fun to see it grow throughout the season, and looking forward to see where it's at this coming Saturday.
Everyone in town has talked about that game 3 weeks ago, Saturday night against the Packers, and the way it ended. I know you have the sharpest appreciation for how that game ended and what it meant. What was that like for you from the moment that last snap was taken till the time you went to bed? I don't know if you went to dinner after leaving Soldier Field, if you went for a drink, if you just tried to decompress at home, but what was that like coming down off that high that was so exhilarating there at Soldier Field?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't sleep for like 2 days, and that's no joke. I remember being exhausted on like Tuesday or Wednesday still just from that game, just because there's so much emotion put into that, and then obviously to have the ending that we did, it just kind of adds to that as well, and going into overtime. So, and this late in the year, it just it was definitely a lot emotionally for sure. But it was no doubt a fun game to be part of, and a game for the first call it 57, 58 minutes that we would like to be better and like it to go differently. But look, the ball bounced our way a few times later in that game, and we were able to take advantage of it. And, that was good to see us kind of close that game out the way we did. But we know that if we want to have a good result here this Saturday, we're going to have to come out much faster and and get to what we need to be doing earlier in the game.
Well, let's get into that a little bit. We're talking to Cole Kmet here on The Score and Take the North Live. Mark Grote and Dan Wiederer with you. And I know, look, we've asked you guys these questions about the slow starts, and it's very fun to see you guys win late. Very stressful, I think, for a lot of fans as well. But what do you guys work on? What do you guys talk about as an offense to make things go more smoothly early and be more productive early in games?
Yeah, well, I think it's, it could be a lot of different things, and sometimes you can't really put one thing on it. But, I think it's regardless of whether if we start with the ball or we don't, we got to come out and, those first few plays, like we really got to, we really have a lot of intent in terms of, what we got to get done assignment wise and really get that first down. I think that's been the key for us. If we get that first down and get an explosive play snuck in there, it really gets us going, really gets the spark going. And then we really don't ever look back once that stuff starts to happen. But look, it needs to, and we all admit this, it needs to happen earlier in the game. For us to be successful, and we've done it at times throughout the year, but there's been times where we haven't, and like you said, we've come back in the second half and have done well, but we know that'll be a big key for us in terms of controlling the clock and controlling the flow of the game, is us getting off to a fast start offensively.
Cole, you used the word intent a couple times here, and it's a word that's bounced around the locker room for several months about the way this team has sort of formed an identity that is based on intent. How do you describe that? It feels like that's something that maybe a word that maybe Ben has used, maybe a characteristic that this team has adopted. What would you describe when that word is used as often as it is with you guys?
Yeah, well, I think like intent, like it comes down to your demeanor as to how you do things. And Ben had mentioned it today in our meeting before our walkthrough. And look, we're on a shorter week, so it's hard to have a day where you're going full pads on we would call this our Wednesday today, even though it's a Tuesday. And, the intent of the walkthrough has to heighten. So whether, while you're out there, sure, we're in tennis shoes, whatever you might be in, but, your first two steps got to be with some good demeanor and good intent. So there's that word showing up, and, doing that helps you play fast when it comes to Saturday or Sunday. And, we know that every little thing we do, whether it's how we go, how our etiquette is in the meetings, or how we are on the walkthrough, and then how we'll be on the practice field here later in the week. It's all going to matter, and it all matters a lot, especially here going forward. So every little detail is just heightened during these times, and we know that in these big games, and we've played in a few of them here these past few weeks. But, that word intent has definitely been thrown around, but it's been something that I think everyone in the locker room has really embodied.
Cole, we've all seen the improvement in the offense, and specifically in the quarterback and Caleb Williams going back to last year. Despite what we're talking about, some of the slow starts. I mean, the guy has been clutch and amazing and elite at times in the second halves of games this year. What's the biggest things that you think, even going back to last year, that have improved with Caleb Williams, the quarterback?
Yeah, well, it's nothing that you guys really get to see, which is cool for us on our end and cool for guys who have been here. I think you talk about how Caleb is in the huddle with his communication at the line of scrimmage, him being able to relay play calls in and recognize the defense pre-snap. Those are all things that, he was just learning as a rookie. And, now with Ben getting here, it's just been night and day. And, when you have that, and that gets everybody else on the same page. So, Caleb might not be that involved in a play if he's just handing off the football, but he's got to get us into the right play call if there's a few plays at hand that Ben's given in. And Caleb's done a great job in his operation, getting us all on the same page, and we've been able to execute at a high level. I mean, I just look back earlier in the season to now in terms of our operation. I think you can watch it and see a big difference from weeks 1 and 2 till now.
Cole, you've been through a lot here. We've talked about it at several different stages of your journey here, many different head coaches, many different play callers, many different quarterbacks that you've caught the football from. Knowing the duration of this journey since you were drafted in 2020, how do you describe the gratitude for having this opportunity Saturday with a real chance here to stamp some relevance on what this season was?
Yeah, I mean, it means everything. I mean, I'm excited about it. That being said, it's not something that I'm going to take for granted. I think, these opportunities, we're the 2 seed, and, we've earned that here in the NFC, but, you don't know when these opportunities are going to come around. And that's what I've learned. I know I go back to my first year and we went 8-8, and it definitely felt way different than this year does. But, you kind of look at it like, 8-8, we didn't have a great year and we still made the playoffs. Like, sure, they'll be back. And, now it's like 4 or 5 years later and I'm just getting back for the second time. And, you don't know when your shot's going to be. And look, this year things lined up right for us. And, we started playing good football here down the stretch. And, now we have an opportunity here going into the tournament to have our first game at home against a rival in the division. And we need to take advantage of it. So I'm excited about the opportunity. And you just don't know when these come down the road in the future. And, I'm excited about it. I think our team feels confident as to where we're at, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting this first one on Saturday and continuing on a run from there.
Cole, you're awesome for coming on the Take the North podcast. We really appreciate it. We know how busy you guys are and how wacky the schedule is and everything that you guys are doing. So thank you. A couple business things, though. I got to get to you first.
Sure.
Will Cooper of the Kmets, will he get my Illinois State Redbirds the title that they didn't get last night? Is that what's going to happen? Will he quarterback the Redbirds?
I sure hope so. That's the plan going forward. I know he was bummed out about it the other day, but the future does look bright there. So no, that was a tough loss the other night, but all in all, it's still a really great season for the Redbirds.
Yeah, no doubt. And have you seen any shows lately at the Chicago Theater? I think the last time I saw you in the wild was at the Anthony Jeselnik concert.
Yes.
I guess you could call it with Danny Parkins, and we saw you out there.
Yeah.
So have you seen any more of his shows or any other shows around town recently?
I haven't seen any recently, no. I've been watching a few Netflix specials with Tom Segura. Dave Chappelle came out with his.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a few other ones that I gotta check out. But as you know, I do love comedy, and I got to get back out to the Chicago Theater at some point soon. But it's always fun to indulge in that stuff.
Yep, you're the best, Cole. Thanks for coming on, man. We'll see you in the locker room.
Awesome. See you guys. Yep.
Thanks, Cole.
It's Cole Kmet. Always great. Always delivers, doesn't he?
We'll get our weekend playlist ready for him when we go back in there on Thursday and Friday. And
No, the weekend. No to the weekend. Do not play that. I'm so with him on the weekend. Like, there's one of those acts. It's just an act, I guess. It's just him, the weekend, right?
Yeah,
where you appreciate the talent. You know what I mean? Like you understand why people like them, but I don't like them.
There's 2 or 3 weekend jams that I really like, so I'm going to dissent here in the
that's all right.
conversation here about the weekend.
I just said I understand why people like them, so I am not here to.
I wasn't being combative, Mark.
Oh, you want to go at it? Actually, we will. No, we're not going to go at it. You're going to actually settle the score for us.
Oh, good.
On it. We're doing that next, actually.
I'm a great score settler.
You are a great score. So we had a little debate about the defense today here on the score. Marshall Harris and I did on Rahimi, Harris, and Grote, and Layla as well. I think Layla and I were on the same side. Marshall was not. I'll explain, and you could give a little bit of your insight as well. I believe that Ben Johnson has reserved a little bit too much of his anger, his wrath, if you will, for the offense. I feel like he let them off the hook with what he's saying. I'm not saying it's got to go scorched earth, but if I was asked to speak about the defense, yeah, of course, it's fair to say they did good work holding those guys, Detroit, to 3-pointers as opposed to 6-pointers. But I would say, what the hell was going on in the middle of the field? Why were guys wide open so much? What was going on in the secondary? And that's what I would point out. Too many explosive plays, too many, too easy. Too easy is what I would say if I was Ben Johnson. And he just didn't, and it just, to me, that was a little bit curious. Had this debate on the score today on the Rahimi, Harris, and Grote show. That's my take. That's the condensed version. Marshall Harris pushed back on what I was saying by saying that he basically said that it's Ben Johnson's way of saying or withholding because the defense is what it is, that you're not going to get any better. There's nothing he can identify right now and truly say that's going to get better at this point, so why not just go with the positive stuff? So that's his take on it. What do you say about that, Dan Wiederer?
You want to watch me skillfully straddle a fence and scoot along it here for a couple minutes here? I know that's been on your bucket list for a while.
This is what we've been waiting for. This is why we get these opportunities to go live on the score, Mitch Rosen. Thank you.
In real time, I felt the way Ben expressed himself there in that clip where it was like, man, they are giving up a lot of yards, but they are still in this ball game because they're not giving up a lot of points. And so you sort of separate those two things. But knowing what Ben's personality is, I was surprised that he was sort of uncharacteristically lenient with that side of the ball when given a very realistic opportunity to say, not good enough. We've got to be a lot better there. The problems in the secondary sometimes stem from the problems up front and the inability to create consistent or significant pressure and disruption on a quarterback. And that's been a problem all year. And so, I struggle with it because the Bears were really good in Week 16 against the Packers inside the red zone, and it allowed them to win a game because they were 5 for 5 in keeping the Packers out of the end zone in the red zone. Against the Lions go 1 for 4 inside the red zone. But yet, sandwiched in the middle of there, it's a huge, explosive game by the 49ers where they scored 42 points and went 5 for 5 inside the red zone. And so you're like, okay, well, we can't just selectively ignore that. We can't selectively ignore the fact that they were a bottom 5 defense this season in terms of total yardage allowed. Obviously, there's things that they're good at. Number 1 team in the NFL at taking the football away, number 1 in interceptions by extension. You're going to have to lean into that on Saturday. But then I said this to you. I was curious if Ben's sort of lenience with the defense was a little bit of a way of keeping his thumb on the offense and allowing them to understand that he felt like they were the main reason that they lost the game on Sunday. And I felt like he said that after the game Sunday, reiterated it on Monday, that he was embarrassed by the offensive output and the performance, all hands on deck there with the ownership of that. But what do you think about that? The possibility that he wanted his offense to know that they needed to take the ownership for that performance.
Yeah, that. And then I guess if I'm going with your theory here, I'll take it a step further. Could he be saying, and this might have been part of what Marshall was saying too, that he knows that the offense needs to pick up the defense, that they have to put up 30. You know what I mean? Like, guys, if we're going to go anywhere this year we're going to win that game right there, we might have to put up 30, because of the struggles of the defense. And I will say, I want to say that the Bears defense is unpredictable week to week, but they're also predictable. You know what I mean? Like they're predictable in that they have not stopped the run particularly well this year. We know that. We can go game to game and play with that as well. We know that they are dependent on the turnovers to thrive, and they've gotten away with it. You know what I mean? Like they have. It's
become part of who they are.
They have won games maybe that they would not have won if they did not have those defensive turnovers. That does not lose me. It's just the high wire act of depending on interceptions and fumble recoveries to get there. And I keep thinking, and maybe this is just me not trusting that it's game to game, that it's going to be a tenable way of staying in games. And that's what's going through my head now against the Packers. I'm thinking you can't depend on that or you're going to lose.
I don't disagree there, but I think they're going to have to depend on that because that's who they are. That's been their identity. They're flawed, and the way that they overcome their flaws is by taking the football away and being opportunistic and having 2 guys on the back end of that defense, and Kevin Byard and Deshaun Wright, who have made a habit of it all season long of getting them the big takeaway. I think those guys account for 16 of the 33, right? Yeah. That's pretty incredible to see 2 guys have that type of ball production. One of the reasons I think that they've been unpredictable defensively this season is because their availability has been so unpredictable. One week TJ's out, then Tremaine's out, then Jalen's out, then he's in, and then he's back out. And then
Tyreek Stevenson.
Right. Like, so there hasn't been that continuity, I guess, with personnel that allows you to sort of really crystallize who you are and what you want to do. Now you've got to go into the postseason with every intent, we'll use that word again, of finding your formula for this particular week against the Packers to make sure that Jordan Love doesn't do what he did against you in the full game. Obviously, he played at Lambeau Field, and then for as long as he was available at Soldier Field in Week 16.
Coordinators speak tomorrow, right?
Correct.
So Dennis Allen will speak tomorrow. Is anything coming up about Tyreek Stevenson and why, like today or the last couple of days, on why he's any discernible answers on why he's not playing?
Ben addressed it on Monday, but it wasn't necessarily an answer that you felt good about. They thought that they had a mix of corners, especially with Nishan and Jalen, that they were going to lean into in that game. We'll see if that changes at all this week. That was I think that was the first game all year where he didn't have a defensive snap.
Yeah, and I know he said that, but I'm still trying to get a feel for exactly what's going on here.
And that whole secondary, you've got decisions to make this offseason on who you want to keep around. Byard, Nishan,
right.
Tyreek's got 1 year left on his rookie deal.
You paid Kyler already,
yeah.
And Jalen's been paid. Right, like who is it? Is it
Jaquan Brisker's contract is expiring?
Yeah. Is it neither? I mean, there is a scenario where neither Tyreek Stevenson nor Nishan Wright is back because
Tyreek's still got another year left. Yeah, but you're
that's right.
But he, who knows? Yeah, we'll see where that goes. You're going Saturday to play a Packers offense that's got a whole bunch of different receivers that can hurt you. The Bears have experienced that firsthand this season. They're going to have to find answers for Watson. They're going to have to find answers for Dobbs. They're going to have to find answers for Reed.
Bo Melton. By the way, Bo Melton, by the way, he has like 130 yards receiving this year. Do you realize that? Like, and the one was a 45, whatever it was, the 45-yarder.
Makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, it's just like, it was just a classic Bears moment in that game. A lot of people got angry with me because I said, well, there was some things that were like the old Bears. Like, why is Bo Melton beating you down the field? Just another one of those guys.
Yeah. For the most part, over 18 weeks and 17 games, this hasn't been the same old Bears. And you hope that for the sake of this city, that they rewrite the narrative for the playoffs on Saturday night, because I think, as you and I have talked about a few times since Sunday night's game ended, no one in this city can imagine what might be in store if the Bears suffer a heartbreaking playoff loss to the Packers.
I'll put it another way. Ain't going down like that.
Ouch.
God.
We ain't going out.
Me. Yeah. We ain't going out like that. Let's dig deeper into it. Dan, we already know the pain that it would be if the Bears were to lose this game, and we've talked about that and legacy and how we'll look back on it if they are to lose. We'll get into that here in a second as we do welcome you back into Take the North Live here on The Score. He is Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. I am Mark Grote of The Score. Adam Stadzinski is our executive producer, bringing back that Cypress Hill right there, as we're going to get into in a second. But guess what? I just saw something, because this man right here, there's news surrounding a character, I'll just call it that, a character in the Bears-Packers rivalry. The character is Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown is a character in the Bears-Packers rivalry because he beat the Packers
sure did.
as an interim head coach for the Chicago Bears last year in the final game of the season. Can be easy to forget, but according to, I don't know if you saw this or not, Dan, I just did. According to Pro Football Talk, the Arizona Cardinals have requested to interview Patriots passing game coordinator Thomas Brown for the head coaching gig.
Pretty good. TB was a good guy to be around. He was a guy that
juice.
He did, and he brought some of the demeanor that was lacking from his boss for much of last season. But good to see him get a little opportunity to spread his wings potentially.
There's no doubt about it. But getting back to the Bears and the Packers Saturday night at Soldier Field, and looking at where both teams are on losing streaks. We know the Bears have dropped their last two. They run it up game against the San Francisco 49ers, running it up for both teams, and obviously they lose to the Detroit Lions, going 0-2 against them. But then you look at what's going on with the Green Bay Packers, Dan. They have lost 4 in a row, including a game against the Baltimore Ravens, in which they allowed 300 and so that's where you check two sources.
Yeah, right.
When you're going through your prep, you're like, let me make sure that's right. 307 yards in that game. Derrick Henry, of course, having 216 that day. But how do you kind of look at the Pack and the Bears going into this game, and considering where they are right now and the momentum, whether that exists or not?
The playoffs bring pressure no matter what. But both of these organizations are facing a different kind of pressure with this rivalry matchup, and it is part of it. And you've got to figure out a way inside your buildings to keep the outside stuff on the outside and your focus on what needs to be done. But you just mentioned it there. The last team that the Bears beat was the Green Bay Packers. The last team that the Green Bay Packers beat was the Bears. One of these teams is going to lose on Saturday night and go into their offseason on an extended losing streak with their final season-ending loss at the hands of their rival. That adds an element of intensity to this whole thing. We talk about what this is going to potentially mean in Chicago if the Bears stumble on Saturday night and how this city might not be ready for as much air to come out of the balloon as will come out of the balloon from this season if they lose this game. And yet, you sort of flip the mirror around and you look across and you see the Packers have a ton of pressure on themselves where if they lose on the road to the Bears and have an L5 going into the offseason, the job status of their head coach may be a hot topic of conversation for at least several days afterwards. Matt LaFleur might find himself on a seat hotter than he wants his seat to be. And so, look, there's a lot going on for these two teams heading into Saturday. The Packers don't seem like they've been the same team since Micah Parsons suffered that season-ending knee injury. It's going to be 4 weeks on Saturday from the time that Jordan Love last played his last full game, right, which was in Denver in the game that Parsons got hurt, and it was a loss in which he threw 2 interceptions. So there's a vulnerable team coming here. They might be feisty, they might be dangerous, but they're certainly beatable and they're certainly vulnerable, and it's worth kind of trying to find where you want to land your punches to maybe knock them over and knock them out.
Wow, yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the fact that Jordan Love has been out because, yeah, that needs to go into the equation. They lose to Minnesota 16-3 this past week. Clayton Tune was their quarterback. That needs to be pointed out. And in the loss to the Ravens that Malik I talked
Willis,
about, Malik Willis, who looked very good against the Bears when he came in off the bench. Like, obviously, Jordan Love, you don't want to face him, and he was explosive against the Bears in the 28-21 loss that day. So that's for sure. You know what really intensifies all of this all of a sudden, Dan, too, is the John Harbaugh factor. As like, it's going to be easier for teams like the Packers, because when you first say that, like Matt LaFleur's job could be in jeopardy, that blows my mind. Because maybe even at the beginning of this year, certainly the year before, he's like top of the division in terms of like Kevin O'Connell and Matt LaFleur, what he's been doing, Dan Campbell. Like, these are all like all-star coaches in this division. It's like Ben Johnson just trying to come on in and find his way with all these heavy hitters. It's a real cautionary tale. Again, and I know he's had time there. It's not like he's only been there for a couple of years. Really cautionary tale on how fast things change. And now that you got a heavy hitter like John Harbaugh out there, it's going to be easier for teams to maybe fire their head coach.
Well, it's also a cautionary tale on what 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play does to expectations for a fan base, right? Yeah. They're not happy anymore with making the playoffs. And by the way,
what a great point.
They've been the 7 seed for 3 consecutive years now, and so they're benefiting from the expanded NFC playoffs in a way that no team really has before that. And so, look, it's all relative, right? And the Packers are used to different things than the Bears are over the last 3 decades. And so that's all part of this equation. And Matt LaFleur is going to have to wear whatever comes for him after the season's over. And the Bears are hoping, as we mentioned in the last hour, to let Ben Johnson enjoy beating Matt LaFleur twice this season.
Oh, man, the pressure is really on, man. Because, and if you lose, then, you're just Thomas Brown. That's it. Are you a local business owner or employee? How would you like to have your commercial air during Super Bowl 60? 6-0, right here on The Score. Here is your chance. We have brought back the Score Big for Your Business contest, where you can enter to win a 30-second Super Bowl commercial on the Score's broadcast of Super Bowl 60 from Westwood One. And new this year, you can win a live broadcast for your brand. Log on to 670thescore.com/contests to enter now and learn more details. Deadline to enter is January 18th. Score Big for Your Business is sponsored by People's Bank, where better banking keeps moving forward. Member FDIC. We kind of hit on it on one of the recent episodes of Take the North, and this is Take the North Live on The Score. Mark Grote and Dan Wiederer at your service. We talked about how, from the Bears side, we kind of just did like the Packers legacy and what it would mean for that franchise if the Packers were to lose this game. What it would mean, I think, for the Bears is undeniably encouraging season with a lot of encouraging things that happened. Unfortunately, I know how it would be if they were to lose. If we look back at it, say, 3 to 5 years from now is when things start to get away from us a little bit. It's going to be the season where the Green Bay Packers beat the Bears to end their season, because that's what I think about when I think about what was a really nice 2010 into 2011 season, when the last time they played the Packers in the playoffs and lost. That's what I think about. And those three players that we both agreed on earlier.
And don't forget about 2013, where they played for the NFC North Championship in the final game of the regular season, and the Packers survived and won that game when Aaron Rodgers found Randall Cobb late. And so those losses carry scars. Like I could just feel the air come out of you right now, just mentioning that. And so this loss would carry a scar. It would be a bigger scar than you want it to be. And you just have to walk around with that bigger scar and be like, oh yeah, I got this. Lost to the Packers in the wild card round of the playoffs after a truly enjoyable 4 months. And so again, like, the players and coaches don't need to think this way. They shouldn't think this way. They should be locked in on what it takes to be the better football team for 3 hours on Saturday night. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I really do think that this matchup is so sort of close and even. Look, like, these teams, the last 4 times they've played, the game has been decided at the very end.
Yeah.
The last 2 seasons, there's been a blocked kick, a made kick, an interception in the end zone, and then an overtime, instantly iconic throw from Caleb Williams. So you expect it to be close. And so in close games, which quarterback plays better in the clutch inside of a close game? I think that Jordan Love, Caleb Williams matchup Saturday is going to mean not everything, but close to everything in what the final result of this game is.
Look, it is truth. Like, you'll hear people saying this time of year, it is about head coach and quarterback. So we should kick that around a little bit. Like, who has the edge there? And I guess I'll start. Yeah, I mean, how could you not say the Packers in terms of that? Like, this is Ben Johnson's first playoff game. We have no idea what Ben Johnson is going to be like as a head coach in a playoff game. We think we have an idea what he's going to be like, but who knows, especially considering the emotion from last week and kind of regretting not going for it on 4th down. Right? Is that what you were thinking?
Well, I was just thinking that 4th down is going to be something that you have to, keep both eyes wide open when you get to 4th down, because it is going to be something where you're going to be tempted to push the gas. Ben wanted to a little bit down the stretch of the game on Sunday, and then ultimately didn't, and they tried to get the ball back and didn't. But look, the NFC Championship loss that the Lions had a couple years ago to San Francisco had some 4th down decision-making that still torments Lions fans when it didn't go the way they wanted it to, and they ended up missing out on their chance to go to the Super Bowl. And so that 4th down and quarterback play, like, what do we got? Who steps up and meets that moment?
Yeah, and I think, like, if you look at it objectively, right? I mean, right, especially if you go back to the first matchup this year where the Bears lose to the Packers 28-21, all the explosive plays, right this moment in the history of the rivalry, you would say that coach and quarterback have this slight experience edge on the Packers side, and Ben Johnson for the first time, and Caleb Williams for the first time going into the playoffs. So that those factors, we don't know. Like we talked about earlier, I'd like to think that Caleb Williams, with all the big games that he's played in, all of that kind of stuff, that he'll own a playoff game. But I don't know.
Well, I think you expect, from what we've seen over the first 2 seasons of Caleb Williams' career, that he's not going to shrivel down the stretch, right? Like, if it's a close game in the 4th quarter, you feel good about your chances. But with some of the things we've already talked about, the slow starts that the Bears have had as a trend this year, you want to see the quarterback understand that some of the stuff that Cole said in the last hour, like the very first possession of the game, the second possession of the game, those are really important for us to create some rhythm, some momentum, some of that forward moving belief that gets the football game within your reach. And that's going to be on Caleb being able to make easy throws, right? And he's going to be on Caleb to make some of the difficult plays. And ultimately, you've got to be the reason that your football team survives past Saturday and gets into the divisional round of the NFC playoffs.
And I would never underestimate the importance of quarterbacks in a game, but the Bears have been successful in these 2 games against Green Bay and for the most part this season in running the football. The Bears in the most recent, the improbable win, the 46-yard pass to DJ Moore game on December 20th, the Saturday night game, the Bears rushed for 150 yards in that game. Packers were well over 100 yards in that game as well. Emmanuel Wilson was a load, but the Bears also rushed for 138 in the December 1st game as well. So that I would not be upset if they did a little Philadelphia style, what they did to the. I mean, we all want that. Like, man, we got a taste of that day, and ever since, like, you keep wanting to fill that up again, and we haven't really gotten there.
So chew on this. You mentioned the Ravens going for 307 against the Packers in Week 17. They did so at a 5.8 yards per rush average. The week before, the Bears averaged 5.8 yards per rush. The Ravens just ran it twice as often the following week. And so that may be there for you. If you can keep yourself in manageable distances, you may be able to lean in to your running game, which has been really, really reliable all season long. And it's something that the head coach loves having. And so, keep an eye on that. And one of the stats that I love to give is that DeAndre Swift 2 weeks ago went over 1,000 yards, which made him the 4th different back in the last 4 seasons to reach 1,000 rushing yards under Ben Johnson's watch. So it's really evidence of a head coach who doesn't care who's in his backfield. He's going to feed them. He's going to have an offensive line that knows what it's supposed to do, and you're going to stay dedicated to the running game to the point where no matter who's getting the football, it's going to be productive.
So wait, 4 guys. So David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, DeAndre Swift. Who is the 4?
Jamal Williams, believe it or not. 2022 Jamal Williams was a load.
Okay. All right. Good job. Yeah, man, and we'll get into it a little bit in our next segment. That is something that Ben Johnson said he was going to fix. He said we don't need other running backs, because I remember I may have been the one that asked the question. I don't even remember. Like, do you need different personnel? We were talking about it. Like, do the Bears need to bring in another running back? And they were legitimate questions, because you're like, we're not going to do this 2 years in a row. We're not going to have this running game. So I think we were all sort of panicked. Ben Johnson was like, No. We'll fix this. DeAndre Swift is good. Kyle Monungai is a worthwhile running back in the NFL. And I'll be damned if he didn't fix it. And it had to do, too, with the offensive line, specifically the interior, start to get their acts together a little bit, because they were a little clumsy, I think is the word, probably early on.
I mean, what a way to go out in the offseason and identify your priorities and then actually address them in the way that they did. The way that they put together the interior of that offensive line in like a 6-day span with a couple of trades and then a free agent signing is huge, and it's made a big difference to how this season came to life. And that is part of the running game success, and it's the reason that Caleb Williams' sack total went down from 68 to 24 this season.
I mean, really, that it should probably be mentioned or just said at some point in time every day, because that is terrific.
Mark Grote on September 28th, 2025. That's where our loyal audience knows that we can take the Cold Tub Time Machine to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, set it to that date, and find that final play where the Bears blocked that kick. Ooh. And it was the first magic moment in a series of many magic moments for this team. Look, I think Ben Johnson has referenced it a handful of times over the last few months, that was just such an important belief moment for this team. And when you really reflect on it, and you understand sort of the pivot point the Bears were at that point in the season, and what a made Daniel Carlson field goal on that final play would have meant, it's crazy. If the Bears lose that game 27-25, they go into their bye week at 1-3 with a very frustrating loss to a disastrous Las Vegas Raiders team that goes on to obviously lose a lot more.
Yeah, well, the irony for me that I'm feeling right now, and ironic because we're looking back on this game significantly, and maybe that'll still make sense, because I sort of used this game when it happened in the subsequent weeks as the poster child for you're not going to get away with playing like that. You can't give up. They gave up 240 rushing yards.
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty had a big day. Yeah.
Jeanty had done nothing up to that point in the season, and all of a sudden there's the Bears' run defense for you. And that is something that it's gotten better than that, I
for
think.
sure.
But still, that's still a trouble area. But it's interesting that you're pointing to this game, the Bobenmeyer game, and I looked at it as like you can't be doing that anymore.
And the reason that Jacob Bobenmeyer's name is coming up with us tonight is because he did move the football as a little bit of tell on the timing of his snap. And the Bears had picked it up
that's
on
right.
preparation and film study throughout the week. And Josh Blackwell keyed the tilt of the football, timed his jump, blocked the kick. And so that's where, when you drill down on some of these moments, you're like, that wasn't just pure luck. It was preparation meeting opportunity to create the luck that gets you the win, and that's what the Bears continually did throughout the year.
Yeah.
I remember being in that locker room afterwards and feeling the combination of both enthusiasm and relief from that team of being like, we got one, and we got one in a way that we thought we could get one with that blocked kick at the end. That's huge. And then as we know, as we can kind of walk through this road a little bit, that was the first of many final play dramatic games that the Bears have had this year. As I said to you earlier, 8 of the 17 games had a final play where everybody was on the edge of their seats.
It's a heart attack play is what they call them.
Attack, yeah. And that's where it was. That was the first one, right? And so should we just trace through all 8 of them?
Let's do it. But I want to say this really quick. I'm so glad that you paid off the Bobenmeyer stuff because I was trending, not explaining it. I was sort of just like thinking, wait a minute, the audience has no idea what we're talking about right now, or a lot of them did. So thank you for paying that off. And now people understand why we were talking about apparently Bobenmeyer, but he's Bobenmeyer to us.
The following week, the Bears were on a bye. I went to a Colts-Raiders game in Indianapolis with my brother and my son, and the Raiders had a punt blocked with Jacob Bobenmeyer as the snapper.
Right,
and so you were like, whoa, 2 weeks in a row. This is crazy. What's happening?
Thanks, Bob.
We'll see if we can get him on our pod here in about 5 to 10 years to revisit.
All right, what else you got over there for us?
Well, so they
Danny
came out of the bye, and if you remember, they went to Washington for a game that you and I, before the season started, said, man, that's going to be a signature moment for this team. They're going to have to go kind of exercise the demons from 2024. Guess how they won that game? Walk-off kick.
Moody.
Jake Moody, right? Like Jake Moody.
The Jake Moody game. That's what it was.
Jake Moody, who, by the way, ended up kicking for the Commanders and making several field goals on Sunday that helped the Bears earn the 2 seed by beating the Eagles, right?
I like Jake Moody.
Good for
Jake Moody.
A lot of spinning around in the Jake Moody world.
It was like a
there.
friend that stopped by and like stayed with you for a couple of weeks, and then he had to move on. You know what I mean? Like, I'll always think fondly of Jake Moody.
Yeah, and he kind of complained about his hotel room and what it was the night before that game in Washington.
Yeah.
And he made the game-winning kick, and he was the story for a few days here.
He's a good Jake
which
Moody.
is a big deal. 3 weeks later, the one that maybe tops them all, it's the Caleb Williams to Colston Loveland touchdown pass in the final minute. That game ends on a Joe Flacco Hail Mary. You say, it's a Hail Mary. What are the odds that anybody ever completes one of those? Well, Bears fans know those can be completed. And Deshaun Wright ended up with the interception on the final play of that game just a few moments after Caleb de Colston became the city's big deal.
I had that highlighted as well. Yeah, 58 yards to Loveland with 17 seconds left. So it's a significant win, but also a moment because, that's when, because another early storyline was, why isn't Loveland getting targeted? Does Caleb not see Colston Loveland? Are they not on the same page? Do they have bad chemistry? And all of a sudden the season ends. Guess who your leading receiver is this year? Colston Loveland.
There it is. Week 11, Bears in Minnesota. It's Devin Duvernay. He does the hero honors with the big kickoff return after J.J. McCarthy looked like he was ready to rip the Bears' heart out for the second time this season. And then Cairo Santos, walk-off 48-yarder in that beautiful building up there in Minneapolis that gives the Bears another last-second final play victory.
Yeah, it was week 11, and both parties needed it, I think, at that point. Like, I talk about Cairo just because of the weird season, and then Duvernay as well. Just had not really given you much up until that point. So, yes, circled, checked. What else?
Technically, Week 14 wasn't the final snap of the game, but it was the Bears' final snap of the day. It's Caleb Williams to Cole Kmet in the Lambeau Field end zone. A little bit late seeing it, a little bit light throwing it, and Keyshawn Nixon peels off his responsibility to intercept that pass in the end zone. And it's one of those moments where you're like, ooh, man, they looked like they had the opportunity there, and it slipped away.
Yep.
2 weeks beyond that, you get the instantly iconic Caleb to DJ, 46 yards, overtime, Soldier Field. That's the moment that most Bears fans are going to put on the centerpiece of their mantle from this season. Would you agree?
Oh, an improbable game. Get the Jahadi Walker game tying touchdown pass, right?
Yeah.
Like in that game, like just improbable, unbelievable how the bright lights in the big city all lived up to the hype that night.
Week 17, you've got San Francisco. You got chaos. The Bears drive all the way down to the 2-yard line, but then there's a little bit of disorganized issues, and the communication is malfunctioning, and they don't even run a play that was designed, and it's chaos, and the ball bounces in front of Jahadi Walker, and the Bears lose a shootout in San Francisco. And then, of course, the season ends on Sunday. The regular season ends with Jake Bates walking it off with a final play kick for the Detroit Lions. So those are 8, and that doesn't include the Giants game, which included a late comeback to overcome a double-digit deficit. It doesn't include the Pittsburgh game, which was close all the way to the end.
Yep.
I think there's one more that was crazy close all the way down to the wire.
Yeah, and I'll just give a couple more what I thought were significant games, and Dan, in the spirit of what Dan was doing, those were last drive games right there. But the most impressive win of the year for me still stands as that Eagles game. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about it, Dan, but yeah, the 24-15 win over the Eagles, the Walter Payton Matsui game, as I like to call it, because that was the first time since those guys in the 80s that the Bears had 2 100-yard rushers, DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai. The Bears' running game was working up to that point, but that was the day where you're like, oh, wow, this could really be something. Now, they haven't quite gotten that magic back, but it was sort of a warning to the rest of the league that, with this offense. Oh, and that was also right around when analysts were like Olin Kreutz were saying the Bears have the best offensive line in the NFL, and it's like, whoa, that is wild.
They beat up an established and physical opponent that had Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator. Unbelievable. Yeah, and then obviously it's followed up with the head coach going in the locker room and ripping his shirt off
That's
to get to the city of Chicago free hot dogs from the Wiener Circle.
Yes, so that game, wow, for more reasons than I'd even remembered, that game was wholly significant. I was also, that was a fun game to watch, too. I did a remote from a movie theater in Gurnee, and it was just it was a packed theater. I did the pregame with Olin Kreutz that day. Big Cat James Williams filled in, and then I watched the game in this movie theater with Bears fans, and it was unbelievable. Watching this thriller of a movie, this reality thriller in front of us in a jam-packed theater.
It's part of the way that the Bears took the North.
That's part of the way the Bears took. They did. The Caleb Williams 22-yard touchdown pass to DJ Moore in the Browns game.
Blowout of the Browns. Yeah,
that was the quote ill-advised, right? Wasn't that the one where he was
for sure? It did not look like a smart throw when it left his hands.
Right, and then when he was asked the question, was it ill-advised? Caleb's like, I can make any throw.
Yeah,
just a quick
Trust
reminder.
Me, I got it.
Yeah, I can make. I'm trying to check if I had a couple of the ones that you had mentioned. The Steelers game you mentioned, and then the Commanders game too, because, and I mentioned it before the break. But in that game, DeAndre Swift 108 yards rushing. He also had a 55-yard catch and run in that game, and that's where you're like, oh, so the guy really did fix the running game during the bye, because it had been the bye week since the Raiders game, and that's where you start to, if you're a fan, if you're an analyst, if you do what we do, that's where you're like, okay, little trust has just been earned.
Yeah, no question. And Swift had that big run on the final drive that made that kick very easy for Jake Moody. You didn't have to sweat it out. You're inside of 40 yards, and you're like, good job, DeAndre, for setting that up. Oh, by the way, you had that possession in favorable field position because Jaden Daniels decided to spit the football onto the ground, and Deshaun Wright, Mr. Johnny on the spot, was on the spot and recovered that fumble to give you your final possession.
The rise of Deshaun Wright. Just what he has been doing all season long for them, for sure. What, man, is it I know some Bears fans probably take delight in what happened with Washington this year just because of all the Jaden Daniels madness and should the Bears have taken him, but cautionary tale comes to my mind when you think that everybody's got it perfect, and boy, do they really know what they're doing for the next 7 to 10 years. They don't.
Right. And now Cliff Kingsbury is out.
Yeah.
And, that's life comes at you fast in this league.
Some 3-word reviews, Dan. Dan Wiederer is famous. How long have you been doing the 3-word review?
Started with my old colleague, Rich Campbell. I got to give him the hat tip on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's been a while.
Okay. Here's a few. 815 Windy City Whiplash. Okay. From the 331. Hey, Mark. It's 2 words. From the 331. It's about time, says Brian and Danny the Elf. Good, better, best. It's a good 3-word.
Appropriate.
Review. Fan frickin' tastic.
I like that.
Is that 3 words? Yeah, I guess it is. Great success. You do a Borat, don't you?
Great success.
And then
Still only 2 words, though.
Yeah, only 2 words.
I added a second great just to get it to 3.
It's okay. And then another one. This was the one that we both laughed at. What about Roshan?
The 2025 Bears. What about Roshan?
What about Roshan?
That's going to be my book on the 2025 Bears season.
What about Zay Frazier? What about Jordan McFadden? Where are they?
We also got one on Twitter that someone responded to you, Dan, when you asked for these. Adam Anderson is a regular listener to the podcast.
Loyal
Shout out to him.
podcast listener for sure.
So he gave us blood pressure medication.
Love it. It's going to be needed Saturday.
It really has been that kind of year. Like, it's enjoyable and it's fun, and the Civic Pride is like at a 9.5 right now because I want it to go up a little bit higher for the playoffs. But it's been tough, like for people, like very stressful watching these games. You know, after a while, you get bit with the winning bug, and you're like, okay, now there's an expectation that the Bears are going to win. But it's hard to get there, man. There's an opportunity cost watching Bears games.
Well, I told you guys in my new gig at The Athletic, we have to write 200-word takeaways at the final buzzer of every game.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I just went through 8 games that weren't even over when the final buzzer ended, basically. And so the stress level of that has been unlike anything I've experienced in my career, to have that many games go right down to the wire and put you in that tense state of mind. And like, how am I going to sum this up? I don't even know what the result is.
That's the worst, man. When like poor us and our little problems in the media, but when the narrative breaks up and you got to literally throw out or delete what you're working on. But my greatest example of that, by the way, you'll appreciate this, Dan, is the 2005 ILL INI basketball team.
Oh, yeah.
I was courtside covering for WBBM, and Arizona made a run that we didn't think. I had 3 raps written already, man, and it wasn't Illinois winning.
Here came the Illini.
Yeah.
Here they came from 15 down.
Baby.
That is a very memorable moment for the Wiederer family.
Darren Williams and
D. Brown, Luther Head. Yeah.
Oh, the James Augustine, man. Those were Roger Powell.
Yeah, Ropo.
Whoa, what a group. Hey, we went down the DePaul sink last time. Now we're going down the Illini, man. That's pretty sick. Tyndall Gill. Let's go. Let's see. What else? There was a couple of, I love this text too here on Take the North on the Score, Grote and Weedsy. I apologize if one of the shows has touched on this, but do you guys think that Green Bay will be headhunting or just playing really dirty because of the Austin Booker intentionally hitting Jordan Love, which I don't think that he was intentionally hitting him, but he did. It is Austin Booker who knocked them out of the game. It's the playoffs, man. Nobody's going to be playing. There's
too much. There's too much on the line, and I think that's part of why the Bears getting that experience a month ago is valuable for them to understand how to control some of those competitive juices that really get elevated in atmospheres like that. And so hopefully they learned a little bit. You remember the opening kickoff of that game, DeMarco Jackson was pile surfing on the opening
It actually
kickoff.
looked very cool. Like it was like
Where's
that.
he going?
Yeah, it looked fun, but it was actually not the move you wanted. So there is going to be a calming down in all seriousness ahead of this game. You don't want them to lose that hype though, and I like some of it I excused because I knew how jacked up Soldier Field was. We both knew that. We know what the area was like around there. I mean, it was just the place was at a 10, and the Bears just couldn't control themselves.
It just
early.
reminds you of the Frank the Tank locker room pep talk in old school. We don't need anybody freaking out.
I think that'd probably be a pretty good idea. And then,
so I got something for you here.
Yeah.
We've got tomorrow morning at The Athletic, we've got a longer feature on the man that the Bears hired just about 12 months ago to become the leader of their franchise, is Ben Johnson, and the impact he's had in season 1. And I guess I'll turn it over to you for a minute on just what you think some of the hallmarks and the fingerprints that Ben has put on this turnaround have been, because it's been really, really fascinating to watch the response he's gotten from all those players and coaches in his orbit.
Well, I mean, I think all the way back, and I know we don't have much time here, but I do go all the way back to training camp and thinking about him marching out on that field and pulling the starters and yelling at guys, no matter getting Cole Kmet's face, inside the Walter Payton Center, at one point in time, and I'm like, oh. There's a new sheriff in town. It's not Reggie Hammonds. That man is Ben Johnson right there. So I think about the intensity. I obviously think about good, better, best. I think about the stuff with the Wiener Circle. I think about the fact that this guy is emotionless, standing on the sidelines during games, and he has one release, and that's good, better, best, and it's back to being serious Ben.
Yeah, right. And his personality is so fascinating to watch. That intensity is obviously resonated. We talked about the running game. We've talked about the offensive vision. I think his ability to connect with Caleb through some hard times has been fascinating, where you've got this sort of 180 from where Caleb says in August he doesn't know if his head coach likes him, to January, where he shows up at Soldier Field wearing a replica jersey of his head coach's high school jersey, right? So that's clear evidence of a buy-in from the quarterback who, 4 months ago was like, oh my God, I'm on this guy's bad side and I may never get off of it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So that will be, and I remember you had a story at the beginning of the season. On Ben Johnson, on basically what's
this going to be like?
Like basically say this guy wants to rip your heart out. Do you think he's changed at all in that regard?
Not even a lick.
Okay.
Not even a lick. I don't think Ben's ever changing in that regard.
I can't wait to read that. So check out The Athletic. Dan Wiederer's piece is going to drop maybe even the overnight. I don't know when that happens.
I think it's 7 in the morning.
Is that when 7 in the morning? Okay.
Maybe 7 a.m. East Coast time?
Okay.
I don't know.
Bobenmeyer time?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We thank Bobenmeyer, or apparently Bobenmeyer, for being part of the show. Seriously, thanks to everybody for listening to the Take the North podcast, listening to this particular edition, listening in general. You guys mean a lot to us. Like, we feel like Dan and I, like, we're all in on this together. Dan and I are your guides, but it's something that we get to share with Bears fans.
It's been a lot of fun. I mean, this has been a fun ride, and I think we're all looking forward to it lasting a little longer.
No doubt about it. And so for Dan Wiederer of The Athletic and the Take the North podcast, our executive producer, Adam Studzinski, for Max Curtis doing the video work. We appreciate him coming in and taking care of that for us. I am Mark Grote, saying thank you for listening to and watching the Take the North podcast.